Hey everybody! This time joining me is none other than Rob Turley, who is known as the RevOps Hitman. For those who don't know, RevOps, or Revenue Operations, is a business function that aims to maximize an organization's revenue potential. Rob is a RevOps expert, process architect, business startup advisor, entrepreneur, strategic partnership, and complex sales mediator, and so much more. I had to rewatch this one myself because Rob packs so much wisdom into this interview. Get your refreshments ready, sit back, and take it all in. Here we go! I want to welcome Rob Turley to Jenny's Way. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate your time and sharing your expertise and wisdom. Can you introduce yourself to people that are not familiar with you?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Rob Turley. I am the founder and principal consultant at RevOps Hitman Consulting Company. That name came from a magazine. I didn't choose it, but it stuck. So here we are. I'm a RevOps expert and I'm a go-to-market master. So anything that has to do with entrepreneurialism, going to market with a business, understanding product market fit, operationalizing, monetizing companies, then I'm your type of guy that you need.
Rob is very good with networking, and he's a great entrepreneur, and I am really excited to have him on Jenny's Way, and here we go. How did you start it in your journey as an entrepreneur?
Well, I started my first company at about the age of 12. It was landscaping, and I got other kids to start working for me where, there was like a fleet of lawnmowers that would go out, and then I would, or shovels or whatever else, and then I would collect everything. They'd bring it to me, then everybody would get a cut, right? And then I stopped doing that because I was threatened by one of the business owners who had a landscaping company. That made me stop at about 14. But then what that meant, I finally found out about a year later. I went, wait, I was stealing their market share. And they thought they can threaten a child to make the problem go away, which did work on their behalf. But it meant I took the market share. That was a huge learning lesson. Then I started, cleaning out people's attics for free. Why would I do it for free? They were hoarders. They'd make a list of what they needed to keep. They would leave for like an extended weekend. I would clear it out into a 30-yard dumpster. Anything that was of any value that wasn't on the list of what they wanted to keep, because people like that can't part with anything. So they just get rid of all of it. I only want this. I will leave for 3 days. You will do whatever you need to do. Don't tell me what you throw away. Just get rid of it, right? Because it's almost like an addiction. So found a lot of collectibles, original Super Soaker 2000, leather-bound Don Quixote books, like the whole set. That was about a $23,000 find. But then I would take those things and then resell them at flea markets, anything that was of value, that was never used, things like that. And so I started doing that, and then storage locker auctions. Buy out storage lockers, find collectibles, sell those. So similar to like pickers or storage wars that you see on TV, I was doing it before it was cool. And then got into software. And then after getting into software, started an AI company, ran that for about 5 years, and then started a consulting firm after that. I'm on the board of several other companies that have to do with artificial intelligence or go to market.
What do you think inspired you to start your entrepreneurship journey so early on? When you said 12.
I learned the value of a dollar very early. So the story goes, and I'll shorten the story. I was at a toy store with my mother when I was about 6. And I wanted this breakaway NASCAR pickup truck toy. When you hit it against the wall, it would break apart, but then you could snap it back together. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Go up to the counter. And we were buying a birthday present for my cousin, I think. I don't remember what, but it was something along those lines. It could have been my cousin, my sister, who knows. But we were at this big toy store. Anyway, we went up to the counter. She paid for my cousin's gift. And then she said, okay, it's your turn. I put the truck up on the counter. She was like, oh, you want this? I remember it was $12. She's like, that'll be, after tax at the time, I think it was like, that'll be $12.97. And then I looked at my mom and she was like, why are you looking at me? Like, well, what do you mean? She's like, oh, where's the money? Where's your $13? So I don't have any money. She said, oh, doesn't that suck? And then she made me put it back. And the woman at the cashier was just like, oh my God, because it was brutal. So I put it back. And she said, when you get enough money, we'll come back here. And you have to work for that money. You can pick up that toy. At that age, it took me about 6 months to make that $13 to buy the toy, but I learned the value of a dollar at that point in time.
Wow. What a valuable lesson. So we could say your mom inspired you.
Yeah, well, I mean, she did, whether it was intentionally or not. She just wanted to teach me that, hey, things cost money, and I'm not here to provide for that.
Wow. Mm. Do you think it was a valuable lesson very early on that you took some lesson into your life now?
Oh yeah, for sure. Probably one of the most important lessons I've ever learned. That's one of the most vivid memories that I have.
Mm. Mm. You served on many board of directors, started many companies. What's the underlying theme? What is the biggest trace of the successful entrepreneur? What do you think what quality people should have if they want to really
Well, you need to be
experience?
tenacious. You need to be a go-getter. You need to be driven, self-driven at that. You can't rely on others because entrepreneurialism is a very, very lonely pursuit. No one is going to understand what you're going through. Anybody who works a 9 to 5, an 8 to 4, whatever basic W-2 job or contractor job or blue collar worker, they're not going to get it. No one's going to get it, and they will not understand your trials and tribulations. If you try to speak to them, to try to confide with them, it's generally going to result in a negative outcome where you feel like they don't care, or they're just going to say, oh yeah, you say that your life's so bad, you own a business, I have to wake up in the morning. There's no relatability. So you really need to surround yourself with other entrepreneurs or meet other entrepreneurs to be able to confide in them, because you're not going to find any remorse when it comes to confiding in people with 9 to 5 jobs or any type of W-2 type of work, or people who do not own a business. It's difficult, though. You need to be tenacious. You need to be able to put everything on the line. Entrepreneurialism, in my opinion, is almost a mental disease. Anybody willing to put everything they've ever had, owned, or done on the line for a small percentage of success is crazy. That's just a fact. You're nuts. And that's okay. But it's people like that who change the world, who make a difference, who really get somewhere because it's worth the risk. So if you are risk adverse in any way whatsoever, or you're a penny pincher, entrepreneurialism is not for you. I highly recommend never getting into it. But if you're willing to take the risk, if you have a good idea, if you're tenacious, if you're smart, if you can make things happen, if you are driven to a point where you will die trying, then you are built to be an entrepreneur.
Mm. So very well said. It's not for everybody. And why do you think it is that way?
Because of the level of risk. It's simple as that. Who's going to put their whole life on the line, all of their financial assets, all of their relationships? Because most likely you're going to sacrifice all of your finances. You're going to end up sacrificing all of your personal relationships because you'll have no life anymore. All you're going to do is talk about work because you're obsessive about it. And people get real sick of listening to you about that very quickly. So you're pretty much putting everything on the line except for the closest people to you. But you need to work to maintain relationships, though. So what I recommend to new entrepreneurs: make time for you, make time for your family, make time for your closest friends, not your acquaintances. That's just going to distract you. But you need to make that time. You need to know who to cut out of your life.
Very well said. You need to know who to say no to and when to say no to.
Yeah, or who to say yes to and when to say yes. But
Have
it's
to be
unhealthy. A
very
lot of people
focused.
burn themselves out very, very quickly. I've done it to myself. It took me longer than most. I was working 100 hours a week for 4 years.
Wow.
That's not healthy. That is not healthy. Most people that work that much every single week usually burn out within the 8 to 16 month time frame. I did it for 4 years, and then it put me into a mental hole for about 6 months.
Wow.
So you have the fallout from doing that to yourself. So you need to make sure that you have people around you, or people who are bought into your mission, vision, and purpose to help you do. And a lot of founders, I call it founder's disease. And what that is that people are unable to let their employees or people that come to help drive the cause, build the company, make bad decisions or to fail. You have to let people fail. Otherwise, you're going to try to control everything. So founder's disease is when you try to control everything. You try to make sure there's no mistakes that happen and all of that. You don't have total control. You will never have a scalable company unless you can delegate and allow for mistakes, allow for failure. And one of my greatest recommendations is that there's no reason to really fire anybody who believes in your mission, vision, and purpose unless they try to hide their mistakes. Mm-hmm. If you lie to me, or if you try to hide a mistake that you made that is detrimental to the company, you can consider yourself fired.
So what would people need to educate their employees, giving a second chance?
Well, I believe in second chances. I believe in third chances. But if you try to cover up a mistake that is detriment to the company, there are no second chances for that, because if they did it once, they will do it again. And I've seen it time and time again. I've tried giving people second chances with that. But if they have that built within them where they feel like they can't disclose a mistake that they make, you want nothing to do with them.
So your advice, as long as they are honest and believe in your mission and purpose, you can come together to a different solution and find a different way of fixing the problem, as long as there's
honesty. Yes, and they can admit the mistake. Also, I want no one to bring problems to me. Don't bring me a problem. Bring me a problem with a proposed solution. If the proposed solution is not suitable after conversation, then it becomes a discussion with other people within the company or between you and them. Don't just say, I can't figure this out, or this is a problem. Try to come up with a solution. If you're not a problem solver in an early stage company, you're not going to make it very far, and you do not want people working for you that need to be told what to do. That doesn't allow you to delegate or grow the way that you need to.
So Rob, how would people go about starting to build their team if they just decided to get into entrepreneurship?
Well, you need to look for people who are willing to go in for just equity. You need to see, is money the motivator? Are they looking for a job for a salary? If they're looking for a job for a salary, they're not cut out to be on a startup team. It takes a very specific type of individual. So it's more on the psychological profiling side of things and the purpose-driven profiling side of things that you're going to build a team based on. If someone's looking for a 9-to-5 where they could do their job and go home and not put any extra, not be willing to wear multiple hats, not be willing to learn new things, then they are a lost cause before you even made the hire.
It's almost sound to me like they initially at the beginning of the building a company, they have to be like partners, so to speak.
Well, it depends on how you want to structure it. I never recommend entrepreneurs to do it alone. So if you have a single ownership startup that you're trying to actually grow and expand, for example, I have a sole ownership LLC with my consulting company because I consult solo. I've got lots of partners that I work with where I bring them in, but that's a different case scenario. If you're trying to build like a software company, if you're trying to build a managed service provider company, if you're trying to build an e-com company, whatever it may be outside of that rare exception, or coaching is also another rare exception where it's very one-to-one. If you're trying to build out a corporation, don't do it alone. Also, if you're looking for investment, if you are a sole founder, the chances of you getting investment go right into the toilet. The most successful organizations, startups, have 3 to 5 founders. It's always good for the board to also have an odd number because people can vote one another out. There can never be one dictatorship of this person said what goes and they don't have to listen to anyone, or if someone owns too many shares where they can make unilateral decisions, it also creates a problem. But you're more likely to get investment. You're more likely to get separate or different perspectives that's democracy based for a more successful outcome. So if you think you could do it alone or you're too greedy to do it with somebody else, your company's probably not going to grow that large. You're also not going to get investment.
How would they find those people to go to work with? Because that's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk to your network. You can network with other people. You can go to different events. You can look for other entrepreneurs online, that type of thing. But one of my go-to places, if you're looking for a virtual experience, like I had an AI company for 5 years, and it was strictly remote, the whole company, over 30 employees, right? Wow. Started remote, ended remote. That's okay. But if you want to do it that way, some people are not cut out for it. I've worked remote since before remote work was considered really a thing, just because of the circumstances that I was in, and that's okay. But it's if you need an environment surrounded by people, go local. Though if you're looking for different potential co-founders online that are looking for equity shares that are willing to put in the sweat equity or just put in labor without getting paid for people who don't know what sweat equity is. That's what that is. You can look on angel.co. Fantastic resource. Feel free to use that, but those are generally people that are looking for, if you're looking for salespeople, commission-only positions. If you're looking for engineers, very low pay with equity incentive. If you're looking for other co-founders, full equity partnership into the company as a co-founder with co-founder shares. So it just depends on what you're looking for, but it's a very good resource for it.
What's the name of that resource again?
Angel.co.
Okay, excellent. How would people know they have a viable business idea? What would you recommend?
Well, you need to probe the market. Do people want it? So people are fooled by, I think it was Field of Dreams or something like that, where they say, if we build it, they will come. That's the greatest lie ever told. And somehow it is bled into business. That's the dumbest thing in the world. Enterprises do it all the time. They throw spaghetti at the wall, dump millions of dollars into building crap nobody needs. They hope that people need it. Don't do that. Know what the market needs based on a problem you're either facing, an issue that businesses are facing that you've worked with in the past, or conveniences that are missing from the consumer market, depending on which direction you're going. But you need to make sure that there is a viable solution and a viable market for what you're creating before you create it. Don't put the resources into it until it is proven that there is a fit or a need in the market that you're able to satiate. Otherwise, if it's something that's more commoditized, you want to start like an investment firm, or you want to start an insurance agency, or you want to start a loan broker company. Yes, there's already a need for that, but your go-to-market plan better be spectacular or you will never breach the marketplace. Commoditized goods or commoditized services are incredibly difficult, but you can execute it properly to make it happen. I work with several clients where I've helped them make that happen, like lead gen agency. One of my clients increased his ability to, his pipeline by about, 4.5x within 60 days. That is a super commoditized market. Everybody and their mother's trying to sell you lead generation. And then with CPA, increase the meeting set rate for qualified leads by 23x within a 3-month period. That's massive. That was actually a record for me. But helping them do that, that is a highly commoditized market. It doesn't mean you can't get into commoditized markets. It's all about how you approach the market and you differentiate yourself to make it possible. Things that are unique, or if you've done something nobody's ever done before, if it's not within the reality, you run into other issues that you could potentially face where the market's not ready for it yet. One of the most difficult and expensive things to do is to educate the market about something they've never heard of before, something totally brand new, something totally innovative. But educating the market is the most difficult and expensive thing to pull off.
So you recommend to do something that's been done, but just doing it better, sounds like?
Yeah, well, I don't recommend that or the other thing. It's just that there are different approaches. There's different budgets that are needed for those approaches, and there's different strategies that need to be taken in order to be successful with each of those. It all just depends. If you're coming up with a really innovative product, maybe come out with it in phases. Something that is known or believable or comfortable with what people's current realities are as phase 1, and then make it more advanced in phase 2, then more advanced in phase 3. So you can get the comfort, you can get the market share. You have an understanding of the products. I've made this mistake myself, came out with a technology that was far, far beyond its time. And it was outside of people's reality. So it was difficult to sell because they thought it was rainbows, unicorns, and, freaking sunshine, blow it out your ass nonsense. But really what it was one of the most advanced artificial intelligence products to ever grace the earth. It's not about how good the product is. You're only as good as your product, yes. But if you can't market the product and you're outside of people's reality, they don't believe it, even if it is true, it adds a difficulty level. So release it in stages. Very believable, based on demand. Then right outside of their belief, you tiptoe outside of that line of what's believable or what the reality is, and then release. And then tiptoe a little bit further, then release. Then tiptoe a little bit further rather than building the whole product up front of something that has never existed in the past. That is one of the hardest lessons I have ever learned in my career, and one of the most detrimental and expensive lessons I've ever learned.
Wow. Release it in phases. That's great. So, what are the things that we will help people to stand out in a crowded marketplace? Is it the uniqueness?
So I coach people on something called psycholinguistics. I'm on the board of a neuropsych company. So how do you approach people? How do you talk to people? How do you read how they feel, what tone they're using, what their language is? You need to mirror that. It's all about market segmentation. Once you segment the market, you need to understand their language, what they care about, what they talk about, what they like, what interests them, what skill set that they have. You need to meet them where they are. If you cannot do that, or you speak to an expert issue as an expert, it's only going to resonate with other experts who do what you do. So you're not going to sell a damn thing. That's not your talk. No one who does it for a living is ever going to buy your product because they do it for a living. That's nonsense. But the people who need it don't understand what you understand at the level that you understand it. And it's a lost cause to try to educate them in a way that makes sense to an expert because they're never going to dig that deep. You want to explain it to them in layman's terms. It's almost painful to do so too. Where you're like, oh my God, I feel like this is the stupidest content I've ever released. I mean, this is for kindergartners. That's what you're thinking. But really, that's the maximum level that people outside of your expertise can understand. So it's very, very important to be able to speak the language of the market, listen to the market, let them dictate how you talk about it. I do this exercise with my clients, part of a GTM targeting and strategy exercise. And we talk about, okay, here are the different segments we should go after. Here are the needs of the industry. Then here are the needs of the individuals you'll be targeting within the companies within that industry. Here's the approach. Here's everything else that goes with it. Here are your products. We're going to redefine how we explain them. Then we do the mission, the vision, the purpose. We do the unique sales proposition, which is separate from the value proposition. And that is specific to each industry you're going after. It has to resonate at a personal level for each of them. Once we go through that process, it becomes a challenge for them to, how do you talk about the product? How do you talk about what you're selling? How do you talk about your service, whatever else? And then, okay, what are the core benefits? That's the next step. What are the core benefits of what you provide? Based on the service or the product that you provide, what are the top 10 things that are the outcomes that you provide that are most important from the founder's perspective? Then you take the client feedback. What are the top 10 reasons they do business with you in their words? Based on the dozens of times I've done this exercise, take a wild guess of how many. So out of the 10 from the founder and the 10 from the customer, how many of those 10 line up where they actually intersect?
3.
2.
I was pretty close.
2 on average. So 80% of why the founder believes the customer buys does not align with why they buy. Only 20% does. So think about content creation when the founder's making it or if they're controlling it. It doesn't work. The customer dictates. Every time I've done that exercise, same exact result, 20%. And it blows their mind every time. Every single time they go, wait, what? It's like, yes, they care about these things. You care about these things. You're an expert. This is what you do for a living. This is what you built. They don't see it the way you do because you are the expert. They're the layman. They think these things are important. You think these things are important. They're both equally important, but from different perspectives. You must have the perspective of the customer. One of the hardest things to do is to put yourself in the shoes of the buyer.
Wow, that's an eye-opening. Wow. So that's requesting the feedback from the clients. That's probably one of the biggest things, sounds like.
You would be shocked at how few people actually do that. And then the people who do it, you'd be shocked at how many people actually listen to it and reflect it within their content, their product, and their approach.
So they think they know what their customers, clients' needs and wants are, but in reality, they're only hitting about 20%, sounds like.
Yeah, and out of that 20%, they're not phrasing it properly, right? So it's like 20% of 20%. 5% of the time, they got it right. And one of the greatest fallacies that people believe, I know my customer. Almost every single CEO who has said that to me has been dead wrong. As much as they believe, but you can't tell them that. You say, oh yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do, because they believe that they do. That's the reality. I'm sure you do, but that's okay. It's about reframing the whole thing and completely shattering the paradigm and restructuring it so that there's an understanding, using actual data, using actual feedback, using actuality, and process architecture to get them to that point of understanding. Because it's not something someone can just tell you, oh, this is what it is. You're not going to believe someone who says, oh, the sky's green. You're going to say, no, it's not, it's blue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's not green. So that's the end of the conversation right there. What if it's not blue? The sky's not actually blue. That's refraction from, the water molecules in the air that make it look blue. It's actually black. There is no color to the sky. There's nothing. It's the absence of color. It's just refraction from molecules that are floating around. So is the sky actually blue? No, it's not. It's an illusion. And so it's trying to teach someone that when they've believed their entire life that the sky is blue.
So why do you think CEOs are not listening or not even trying to get sometimes feedback?
From, what is it, Karate Kid? I think that movie. If the teacup's full, if you pour more tea into a teacup that's full, all it's going to do is just spill out. There's nothing that can be learned. You have to empty the teacup first. There's a lot of wisdom in that. As funny as it is that it came from a child's movie, right? But it's incredibly, incredibly strong wisdom is that they have to be open to change. They have to be open to new ideas. Like, for example, with my consulting, if I'm working with startups, I have very limited space for startups. I take on 4 at a time, no more than that. And then I work with, startups that are much further along, Series B, C, or mid-market companies. But I like working with startups because I've been there. I've been there a bunch of times. I get it. But if they're closed-minded, even mid-market companies, if they're closed-minded and they're not willing to make change and change management processes and protocols are not possible, I will refuse to work with you. You're immediately disqualified because there's no helping you.
So it sounds like it's a continuous process. It's evolving in looking from different point of view, listening to feedback. And it's like a continuous evolvement of the strategies based on the feedback you're getting from the customers.
Yep. Listen to the customer. That is the number one thing people need to do. And it seems like enterprises have forgotten. That's why they're bleeding customers left and right. And they're losing them to the smaller businesses because they understand what customer success is. They understand what listening to feedback is. They also understand what buyer safety is, which is one of the most ignored things these days. Have you ever heard of buyer's remorse?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. You buy it, a month later, you regret it, then you're locked into your contract. Worst decision you ever made, and now you are liable for that. Especially if you don't own the business, you can get fired for something like that. So people go with like the Deloittes of the world, things like that, because it's a safe bet. Even if it screws up, oh, but it was Deloitte, so it's fine. It's an excuse. How do you provide buyer safety? It's by giving them a way out, not locking them in. I'm against annual contracts personally. With me, I offer monthly retainers. If you're not happy with my service, if you're not happy with the results that you're getting, walk away. I don't care. I've never had a client do that yet, to this day. So that means they're getting the value that they deserve. If you are worried about how valuable your product is and how sticky your product is, the issue is your product, it's your service delivery, it's your customer success, it's your ability to listen to the customer. You should never be worried about churn. Unless something way bigger, better, and badder out there comes out, which means you gave up on innovation, which is its own separate problem, or your service or product was never good to keep them on the line in the first place. It's adding that level of risk gives you an advantage, but it can also be a severe disadvantage. The other side of the coin on that is that if you have a monthly service that's canceled anytime, it's very hard to get investment from traditional sources like VCs or angels. There's no guaranteed annual revenue. They want to see ARR. So that's also a risk that's being taken there. But things are moving more toward a utility model. Like when you pay for electricity, you only pay for the electricity you use. So that's happening within the data world. It's happening within the services world. There's a lot of that movement, and VCs are starting to wake up to it, the more progressive ones. But really, you have to, you kind of have to weigh what is worth and what's not worth having. Maybe have an annual option. And then also a monthly option. Make it cost less if it's annual. Or they start out monthly and they say, hey, if I buy an annual plan, if they're happy, if I pay for an annual contract, will I get 10, 15% off? Oh, yeah, you will. Okay, great. I'm going to buy into that. So you can come up with hybrid models too.
So do you see the culture changing toward the client-oriented, customer-oriented culture, or we're not there yet?
Oh, yes, it's moving toward that. And even the enterprises are starting to wake up to it. I mean, look at what happened to the SaaS world. Well,
Mm-hmm.
even HubSpot, which is in growth mode, they just acquired Clearbit. They laid off what, 6,000 employees, even though they're making acquisitions, even though they're growing, they're laying them off because they don't know what to do. Their partner program became way more strict. They're not allowing in their startup program. You need to be you need to have funding from a certified and a HubSpot affiliated VC or a HubSpot affiliated accelerator or incubator program. Otherwise, you can't get in anymore. So they're not giving those discounts to new startups because they don't have someone who's affiliated with Hub. It's all revenue driven. It's greed driven. That's a problem. Their partners can't get rev share if you don't get the client who just bought after you set up the whole deal for them. The client that just bought, if they don't click a link that you send them verifying that they bought it from you, even though you set up the whole deal, you get nothing.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? How is that fair?
Is.
Channel revenue is one of the most powerful things out there, yet people don't understand how to run a channel process. They make it stricter and stricter because they're like, oh, well, if they don't take this extra step, then we could just keep all the money. It's wow. Driven by greed, and it's driven by poor relationship building or relationship techniques that are put into place. And that's no jab against HubSpot. I love HubSpot as a platform personally, but the partner program went to the toilet.
Why is that happening?
Money.
Speaking of money, how do you see money?
Money is just a tool to use to grow or to get more or to make things happen. Think of it as like energy. Money is energy. The more money you have, the more energy you have to be able to displace other places, to make things happen or to build things, right? Or to pay yourself. Once you start making enough money, it's not relevant anymore. You have more than you need to survive at any given time. So where do I put it to help my assets grow, to help my business grow, to help build a new business, to help structure this, do that? It's really for making things happen. And then people who have the goal, entrepreneurs, going back to that, if their goal is to make money, you're never going to be a successful entrepreneur. If you are, that is an outlier, very large outlier. Your goal should be to help people or to accomplish something. If your goal to accomplish something or to solve a problem succeeds, then money is the outcome. Money is not the goal, it is the outcome. If you see it that way, generally you're going to be more successful. And then it's like with people that I work with, if I work with a startup, if their goal is to make money, I say you're not a fit. Then I walk away.
Who is the fit? The people that are making changes? They want to make a difference in other people?
Want to make a difference, have a clear mission, vision, and purpose, and their goal is to solve a problem. Money's great. Everybody wants money. I want money too. I love making money. They have no problem with that. I want to make as much money as possible. But the way I make money is by solving other people's problems. You can't make money if you don't solve a problem, or if you don't provide a convenience, or if you don't make life easier in the consumer world. In the B2B world, it's more so solving problems. It's more so taking the unnecessary effort or time, giving time back to teams, things like that. If you're not doing that, you're never going to make any money unless you're scamming people. So if your goal is to make money, you don't care about solving the problem. You care about bleeding people dry for the most amount of revenue as possible with the least amount of effort. If you don't make it customer-centric, customers aren't stupid anymore. They're waking up to it. Enterprises have ripped people off for the longest period of time. Since the beginning of the enterprise period in the 90s, right? People are finally sick of it. There's no customer service. There's no value to me. Why am I even doing this anymore? And then they leave. People are not going to fall for that anymore. The whole market is shifting because people have finally smartened up to what's going on.
Rob, what is your mission?
My mission is to help as many people as possible, to help structure new businesses that are going to create actual change in the marketplace, that are going to enable other businesses to grow. If you enable businesses to grow, if you enable people to make differences, what happens is more people get jobs, there's more money going around. And just like the theory of money velocity, which more people should be aware of, the more money that moves, the more people who are employed, the better the world is going to be in the sense of quality of life. The higher quality of life, the better the outcomes and the less shitty things that happen in this world around us.
Interesting. You call it money velocity?
Money velocity. What that means, okay, so imagine, let's take COVID. very unpopular subject. Some people are going to be very mad at me for saying this, but this is the reality of it. With COVID, and nothing against the disease, I have no opinion on that. This has nothing to do with that. Why did the economy tank?
Good question.
Is because when you spend money, that's the velocity, how quickly. So money is also called currency, which means it has current, similar to water. When water moves, it's a current, like a river has a current. When that's moving, it means that it's going somewhere. And it's able to distribute other places, through tributaries, into the ocean, wherever the hell it may go, into a lake, you name it. If money's like water, it needs to keep moving. Stagnant water grows mold, it grows algae, mosquitoes breed there, it becomes toxic, right? So what we do is that we put a dam in place, for example, the Hoover Dam. We create a lake on the other side. All of the ecology where we block the water from going dies out, or it completely transforms into something totally different that's no longer natural. So when we're spending money, it's keeping the economy instead of ecology clean. It enables it to grow and it keeps it healthy. When you stop that spend, so when COVID hit, everybody freaked out. They stopped spending money because they were trying to quote unquote save money. When everybody stops spending money, the whole economy will tank every time, because if the money's not moving, hence velocity, the economy just dips down and just goes straight to hell. It was not because of COVID. It was because people stopped spending.
Wow, that's the best explanation I ever heard.
Well, I appreciate that, because it's a really simple theory. If everybody keeps spending, the economy keeps growing. If people stop spending, then the economy dies. So whenever there's a risk psychologically, or within the marketplace, looking at trends that, oh, we're about to go into an economic downturn, people stop spending, so it just keeps going down and down and down and down faster. It's the idea that, oh, I need to save my money now, that actually keeps it dropping. If people said, nope, that means we need to spend more, the economy would correct itself almost immediately.
That's the interesting, because it sounds very simplistic, but yes, that's the way it is.
Try to get 7 billion people to buy into it. That's the problem. A lot of people have a scarcity mindset, and that goes back to entrepreneurialism. If you're an entrepreneur and you have a scarcity mindset, you better drop that as quickly as possible, because if that's the way that you think, there are three things. I'll go back to this. There are three things, three prime principles that will cause you to fail as an entrepreneur in life. There's never enough time. There's not enough money, and it's never the right time. If you say these things to yourself, oh, I don't have enough time. Oh, I don't have enough money. Oh, it's not the right time for me to do it. You will never accomplish a single thing in your entire life. It's about breaking those principles. There's no such thing. There is never enough time. Period. I never have enough time. You never have enough time. Anybody listening to this never have enough time. I don't have enough money. You don't have enough money. Anybody listening to this podcast also doesn't have enough money. Oh, well, it's not a good time. It's not the right time. It's never a good time. If you've lived a life, you understand that bad timing is pretty much the way the world works. So live with it, deal with it, break through that. Don't even let it bother you, because if those three principles ever block you from doing anything, you're not cut out for the biz.
You might as well enjoy the 9 to 5, right?
Complacency is a disease, just like entrepreneurialism, but it's the equal opposite.
When is the right time? That's a good question. Is it ever?
It's never the right time, because you're going to keep overthinking it again and again and again and again. If you don't take action, someone's going to do it before you. Opportunity's lost. Boom, just like that. Snap your finger.
Tell me about a time when you had no idea what you were doing, but you did it anyways, and how did you overcome?
Well, the last company that I started, I had no idea what I was doing. So we overcame it by listening to the marketplace. Then we built something based on the request. Do what you need to do. Do what people need you for. Understand what your talent is, where you can make a difference. And sometimes you don't know that right away, even after you start. Be able to pivot, make changes with the changes that people request, make changes with the changes the market desires, with what the market needs. If you're not willing to make changes and pivot on a dime, there's going to be a problem. What you want and what other people, it doesn't matter what you want. That's another part of founder's disease that I referenced last time. It's not about you. It's about what everybody else needs. You build a product for everyone else. You could build it for yourself, but if it doesn't apply to everyone else, then no one's going to care. It's not about you. And then if the product or the service is going a direction that you wish it didn't because you want it to stay pure to the idea of whatever the hell bullshit you came up with in the beginning, I don't care. They don't care. Investors don't care. You may as well give up now. It's going to go the way the market needs it to. And if you have a problem with that, you may as well step down as CEO and put someone else in your place, because if you can't psychologically handle it, walk away.
So it sounds to me, being entrepreneur, you have to be open to uncertainty and allowing the market to dictate. And you don't know exactly when you start which ways it might go.
That's right. Uncertainty is the greatest fear of human beings. It ties to the fear of death because we don't know what happens afterward or when we're going to die. That's uncertainty. An entrepreneur's life is a constant state of uncomfortable certainty. If that doesn't excite you, or if that doesn't drive you as a human being, don't do
it. I love it. Uncomfortable certainty.
Think about how many entrepreneurs are out there. I'm going to start my own business, but they're risk adverse. They're scared of uncertainty. That I'll give them 6 months, a year max. And then they'll just go, I can't do this anymore. And then the whole thing shatters before them. I've seen it happen time and time again. They were never cut out for it.
So you feel people born to be entrepreneurs, or there's something people
There is definitely
develop?
a genetic predisposition and psychological predisposition to being open to it, because you need to be naturally open to risk and open to new ideas, open to change. Those things do not, that you can learn openness, open-mindedness or openness to change over time. But if you're risk adverse by nature, there's no changing that really. You can try to de-risk things as much as you want to, but in the end, it's the same amount of risk. It's just calculated risk. If you're a risk taker and you don't care, like if you're like a gambler where you're just going to throw money on a table or like on, like, bet, $1,000 and number 16 on a roulette table, you're probably not going to be a very good entrepreneur, because you're just willing to bet anything for any reason because you feel like luck is on your side, and luck doesn't even exist. It's the law of large numbers. You win, you lose, who knows? It's just probabilistic. You take calculated risks. If you're able to calculate your risk and understand why the risk is being taken or what outcome you can expect from the risk that's being taken from a cost-benefit analysis in a more intelligent way, then yes, you're probably more cut out for it. If you're just a risk taker where you like, risking your life or just testing the universe to see what happens, you're too far down the level of extreme that's required for being a business owner.
So it's the kind of fine line between being able to take the risk, but when you do take the risk, you have to be a calculated risk.
Yes, you need to be accountable for your mistakes. You need to take a calculated risk. Yes.
So there's that magic formula there, so to speak.
Yeah, there isn't. It's all just a crapshoot in the end. It really is. As much as I hate to say that, it's a crapshoot.
Continuously trying, listening and changing and evolving and developing and trying new things.
Yes, open-mindedness, willingness to change. Thus, like you just said, evolution. You need to be willing to evolve.
And continue to improve, because today's market is one thing, and then, I don't know, a couple of months, 6 months down the road, the market might shift, and then what do you do?
Yep, it ties to failure and it ties to uncertainty. And if people take failure as something that keeps them from trying again, that's another huge problem. You cannot let that take you down. You're going to be beat into submission beyond the point. If being an entrepreneur, unless you're extremely lucky, I mean, against all odds, you're going to be beaten to submission and almost fail, where you lose everything time and time again. You're going to get continuously just beat down over and over again. If you're not willing to get back up, or if you're not able to get back up, or you don't look at failure as a learning experience, you're going to be screwed. Because people say there's winning and losing. It is not binary. There's success and then there's failure, but failing means you stopped trying. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, That's insanity. I forget what that quote's from or who said it, but altering the way that you did it again and again and changing it to try to get the outcome you're looking for, that is a healthy way of doing it. So you can't take failure as a loss, and you can't fail unless you give up. You succeed or you learn. There's winning and then there's learning, not losing. Mm-hmm. And that is something that you need to inherently believe and understand, or you're going to have some serious issues in the future trying to pull it off.
So what is success?
Success is self-defined. My definition is maybe not be the same as your definition, which may not be the same to any of your listeners' definitions. That is strictly personal, and I wouldn't feel right to define
it. That's very well said. My success is my what it is to me. Your success is what it is to you. And it's even then, what success appears to me perhaps a couple of years ago is evolved. Now it's totally something different because I grow and then I learn and I evolve, and the things that I want to try and accomplish and learn are different, and the market is changing too. So when you combine all of those factors and how we evolve and how we're progressing as the human race and the technology and everything, you have to be flexible and open-minded and willing to adapt and learn new things. So my success changed over the last couple of years.
I mean, look at somebody who's like a terrorist. Their success is blowing themselves up in a city bus with as many people as possible in it. That's success.
Unfortunately, it is, yes.
Right. That's their success. That is the ultimate win. But then look at the success of an entrepreneur. How much money can I make? That could be considered success, but they're probably going to be very unhappy because money doesn't make you happy. Helping people solve problems and having a passion makes you happy. Is solving a problem, whether it made you rich or not, success is there's a massive variety, different realms of what success means, but it all depends on what's important to you, what you're passionate about, what you believe in is going to define that.
That's so true. What are your passions?
My passion is to help people. My passion is to solve problems. I love complex problem solving. I love impossible problems. That's why I do what I do for a living. I love structuring process architecture. I love helping other people build businesses that are effective, that are scalable, that drive growth, and that make a difference. That's what I'm passionate about. The more businesses I can help succeed, the happier I am. The more people I can help, the happier I am because I'm a giver. Most people are takers, about 90% of them, but I'm a giver. So you can get taken advantage of in many cases, but you need to learn those lessons because you learn a hard lesson every time. People will take, never give to you, but you need to ask them too. You need to know where to draw the line in the sand, which is very difficult for someone like myself to define.
You're givers. Yeah, when you give things, you could be taking advantage of. Have to realize
all the time, because 90% of the population will say, oh, well, I'll just take from you and you're just going to give it to me anyway. So no, it keeps it from being transactional. The transactional aspect of it needs to be brought up front, or people will give too much trying to add value, trying to help someone just because they want to help them. Then the person's going to run away and say, I don't need anything else from you because you've given me enough where I could just kind of like go off my own and do something. So there are risks around that if you're that type, if you're that archetype.
Like advantage and disadvantage and everything.
Yes, there is. There are checks and balances throughout the entire universe of everything. There is an equal and opposite extreme to anything you could possibly imagine. And then definitives do not exist. There's no best, there's no worst, there's no least, there's no most. There's always something bigger, better, and badder than you out there, whether you know it exists or not. And there is always something far worse than anything that you've ever seen, done, or experienced out there that you either are aware of or unaware. The awareness has nothing to do with it.
What does it has to do with?
Doesn't have to do with anything. There just is. There is everything in every direction, and it's pretty infinite. It doesn't matter.
It's like people will hear people say, well, I'm already successful. I got everything. But there is always a better version of ourselves. I know that. There's no matter where we
Is
at.
always working to improve. That's right. There's a bigger, better version of me out there. You think you've reached your best, but you haven't, because there's always better, and that ties into that same type of psychology, but for a different, I guess, perspective on it.
Yeah, I was wondering that the last a couple of years. Is there a better version of me? How do you know? Well, you keep trying and learning new things, set new goals for yourself. Make a choice, make a decision, choosing that you want to be that better version of you. Keep learning and growing, and then you see, oh,
When
what
you
is
stop
that
setting
next version?
goals, you become complacent. When you complacent, in my own personal opinion, doesn't mean whether it's true or not, because truth is also an opinion. When it comes to anything like this, any ideology, as soon as you become complacent, you sign your own death warrant.
Yeah. What's the saying? You stop learning, and growing, you're on your way.
Yep, you stop learning, you stop living.
That's exactly how I feel, and you become so complacent that it doesn't even matter what's going on around you.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So, mm, yeah, it is a form of giving up. What would you do every day if money no matter at all?
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
If money is not a subject at all, what would you do every day when you wake up, and how would you see your day?
I would do the exact same thing I do today.
Wow,
That's how you know you're in the
that's
right place.
yes. Wow.
Because it's like I
Okay.
said, it's not about money for me. Money's the outcome.
Wow, that's amazing.
Money's important. Everybody needs money. Everybody wants to make money. I want to make money, but my goal is not to make money. My goal is to help people, and by helping people, I make money. That's the
Mm,
outcome. My expectation is to help people, and by
mm,
default, the outcome is cash flow.
mm. So, is that what's keeping you motivated to help more people, to create more
I
business? So,
love seeing my
what?
clients succeed. If I see them succeed, if I break any records that they've ever had, if I fix their company, I've helped companies that were going straight to oblivion, bankruptcy,
Mm,
completely revert back to growth mode. That is better than any dollar amount that I could possibly get.
wow, that's amazing. That sounds like that really excites you.
It does. I mean, that's what I'm passionate about, is how hard is the challenge? How impossible is the problem? That's what drives me.
Give it to Rob; he will solve it.
Yep. If I could
As
solve
as
it, then
long
that's what I want. That's right.
as long as you're open to new way of doing things, and trying different things that you never done
You
before.
are addicted to the status quo. I cannot help you.
Early in the conversation, you brought up a good point that it is so important to set the time for yourself and your family. Are you doing certain routine every day, or in the morning, or any
Oh
times
no,
throughout the
no,
day?
no, no. I am
No.
chaotic by nature. That is not suitable for everybody. I do not recommend it. If you are I need a routine type of person and a structured type of person, do not try what I do. Ever. You are going to self-destruct, I promise you. But if you're someone who's trying to build a routine, but everything in you, to the core of your being, to every molecule within you, is fighting it, saying, I'm not going to do that because it's planned. I'm that type of guy. I get you. Don't
Mhm.
do that. Come up with a checklist, come up with a to-do list, and then it's about crossing those things off. It doesn't matter when it happens. It's all about prioritization. I actually coach people. I do psychological coaching around that, of people who that need the chaos that's around them, like I do, about how to actually get things done so you don't end up ignoring things. It's all about what needs to be done and the priority of the actions that need to be done. It's not about the when. If you plan the when, it's never going to happen because you're going to fight it. But then I
Mm.
also coach people that need order on how to structure their lives as well. I could do both sides of the coin, but what works for me is the random and chaotic.
But you still have a to-do list, so to speak, and you prioritize.
It's all about prioritization.
Mm,
Prioritization. Do you do it? Do you
mm,
ignore it? Do you do it now? Do you do it later? Do you delegate it? You can graph it out.
mm. Can you teach somebody what's the best way to prioritize, or is that critical thinking that
That
I
is
have to be using?
completely individualistic. To each their own with that. There's no one way that works best.
Hmm.
Almost everything that I do, from revenue operations to coaching to consulting, everything I do is absolutely custom to every client, every individual within an account, anything. Everything needs to fit their specific point of view or their business structure, people, or operations.
Hmm.
There is no one size fits all. There is no cookie cutter. As much as VCs want to believe that, it is absolutely a fallacy.
And then, as you just mentioned, also everybody function at a certain from a certain perspective and a certain environment better. Like some people have to be very structured, and they can succeed as a business owner that way, or others love to function in an organized chaos, like yourself, and they can succeed as business people too. And when you write the customized plan, depending on what their personality, how they function better, and what type of environment, that will dictate which route they have to take.
That's right. Yep.
It's based on the personality and how they grew up, I believe, that makes a difference. What's the best way to set you up for whatever the desired outcome is?
Yep. It's a balance of nature and nurture.
Mm. Very balance of balance. That's great. Are there certain books or certain leaders that you follow that you feel like influenced you as a person and as an entrepreneur?
Well, I owe a lot of what I know to Marcus Kauke. He wrote the book Making Channel Sales Work. He was a CRO of
What's the
Sandler.
name?
He's one of the
What's the
people
name
who
of that
made
book
Sandler
again?
selling. Sandler Sales, the global coaching company. He's one of the people who made them go global. He was pretty much responsible for that. He was the CRO of one of my companies for years, and I worked under his wing for like 20 hours a week
Mm.
for years. And so a lot of that is owed to him, and also running my own podcast, learning from the best experts out there, networking, learning on my own through personal experience. There's a lot of different attributes that tie into what I know, how I know it, and how I do it. And the amount of people or processes or experiences that I've had that add up to what became of me it's insurmountable. I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Mm. It's the combination of everything. You experimentation yourself, learning, failing, trying different things, having different businesses, and all the experience of other people that you
Yes,
interacted
you
throughout the
learn
years.
more from failure than anything. You learn nothing from succeeding. Succeeding is useless. Failure is the greatest professor or the greatest teacher out of anything else out there. You screw up, you learn, but you need to be smart enough to learn from the mistake and understand what the mistake means and how to apply it to become better and improve. The people who
Mm.
don't learn from their mistakes, those are the people who will fail.
Mm. Mm. Failure is the best professor. I love that.
It is, but you need to be willing to learn from it. Some people just
Yes.
get mad. They just get mad that they failed. They keep doing the same thing over and over again. Or they get mad that they failed and then they give up. Like I said, you can't fail unless you give up. You can't
Oh.
fail unless you don't learn from the lesson that you just learned.
Do you feel
There's
like
winning and then there's learning.
building and learning? Oh, I love that. There's winning and there's learning. Do you feel like people taking it personally say, "Oh, I'm a failure," instead of seeing it as a learning?
Well, yeah, I mean that means they have their own inner demons. That is a psychological issue that they need to face on their own. That has nothing to do with whether they're a failure or not. Failure is an opinion, just like success. Same thing. So, did you fail? No, you didn't. You learned. If you believe you failed, then it is that. It's just like there are two. It's pretty binary in
Mm.
many senses. Is that if you believe you can do it, you will do it. It may take a couple attempts or a whole hell of a lot of attempts, but you will do it. If you believe that you can't do it, there's I can, there's I can't. The one that you choose to believe is the one that is true to you. If you think you can't do it, you believe that you can't do it and that you'll never do it, I guarantee you, you won't. If you believe that you can do it and are tenacious that you will keep trying until it happens, then I guarantee you, you will make it happen at some point in time. There's no saying when, there's no saying how many attempts, but anything is possible in that respect. So it's really, do you believe you can or you can't? That in the end, psychologically, that's all that actually matters.
And then putting up the work and keep trying and keep innovating and getting mentors and consultants and people that you can trust that will lead you in the right direction.
Just be careful though, because a lot of consultants, I am a consultant, but a lot of people that claim to be consultants are dangerous, not to be trusted. So be very careful. It is a mutually symbiotic and mutually beneficial relationship. You need to trust them. You need to level with them. You need to be able to build a relationship, get along with them. If you don't get along, if you don't follow their beliefs, if you don't have the same belief system, if you don't have similar interests and values, if you don't have similar goals or missions, you were never meant to be. Even if they're a good consultant, you should not work with them. So it is a very personal decision, and that goes both ways. A consultant who's willing to take on any client, even if there's headbutting between, it's okay to have headbutting and have disagreements, but if you all out disagree with that person, you have no business working with them, no matter how good or bad they are as a consultant, because you will not succeed. So be very careful if you get a consultant or a coach, because I would say, I mean, this is a daring thing to say. I'd say about 90% of them are total BSers.
How do you
I don't
know
want to
they're
talk
not?
shit against my own profession, but it's a sad truth that a lot of people will never hire a consultant again because they had a horrible experience with them, and that happens more times than not, far more times than not.
How would the people know? They need to make sure that they have the same value for them first.
Look at what they do. Look at their experience. If anybody's ever worked with them, vet them. Just vet them. Or if you know enough, you'd be able to tell if they're a BS. You could sniff it out if you know enough. So if you don't know anything about what you need to be consulted on, then definitely do the research. Definitely do the vetting. If you do know what you need help with and what the issue is, or you understand the area in which you need help well enough, then you'd be able to tell. But a lot of people don't have that advantage.
What's next for Rob?
What's next for me? Well, the future will tell.
Open to
Again,
possibilities.
remember, you need to be able to pivot. The market's always changing. The world is always changing. If I can't predict what's next, what I can predict is that I will continue helping people in the biggest way that I possibly can. But things might change. Circumstances may differ, or I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. Who knows? So it doesn't matter where the world is going to take me based on the mission, vision, and purpose that I have set for myself is where it's going to take me, no matter where that may be. I know that was kind of like a politician's answer, but at the same time, it's one of the smartest answers you can give, because there's no way for me to tell you what I always tell people, even my friends, current or present Rob or past Rob has never met future Rob. I don't know how I'm going to think in 5 years. I have no idea. All of my perspectives may have shifted at that point. I couldn't tell you. It's very naive to think that you're going to feel some way about something 5 years from now, because you don't know if you will or won't.
That is so true. I think I've seen that too. That is
And it pisses off a lot of people when you say that to them. If they say, "Oh, well, I'm never going to want that." Well, you've never met future you, and that could change even next year. And they're just like, "Well," like people get so pissed off when I say that to them, and I just sit there and smile.
What else are you going to do? Yeah, what there's to do? You can't tell.
Yeah, but like later down the road, if I have an existing relationship with them, we stay in touch, and that perspective changes. As soon as I get a whiff that perspective changes, then I'll either call them or I'll meet up with them the next time I see them and be like, "Hey, so how about that opinion you had back when?" And that's completely switched to this new ideal. How about that? And they just go, "Shut the hell up." That's the only "I told you so" that I get joy from.
Well, anything else you want listeners to know, and your key takeaways from today's conversation?
Well, key takeaways is that not everybody's cut out for entrepreneurship. Know if you are, know if you aren't. Be careful when hiring a consultant or a coach. Make sure it's the right person, a good fit for you. When you're building a business, do not become single-minded. Do not think that you are the end-all, be-all decision maker, and do not believe that the way the product, the way I wanted to build it, or the service, whatever it may be, that it is definitive in its form, because that form will change. You need to be open and willing to change. So I guess those are the major takeaways.
Yeah, I love the being able to open and willing to change, and it's continuously evolving. You evolve as a person at the same time you evolve as a business owner, and your product and services needs to be evolving because you want to be always staying at the top of your game. You don't want to become complacent because they will go to your competitor.
Yes, make sure that you always believe in yourself, and money is the motivator. And there is no winning, there is only learning. So failure is not an obstacle, it's a learning experience. I guess those are the other takeaways that I would add.
There is no failure, there's only learning. You heard it here first. Keep trying new things, and don't forget to learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, don't try the same thing over and over again. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
Put yourself into an insane asylum trying that.
And try new things. Figure out what you want to accomplish next, and let that guide you and excite you every day. And yes, you can learn it. You can do whatever you want to do, as long as you see that.
What I want to add too is that the experts out there, once they think that they know it all, that's the time that they fall off the cliff. That's the end of their career. The second you think you know it all, you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Dead to the world. You are no longer relevant. The timer starts ticking, and that's going to be a very short timer.
There's no way you've seen it all or know it all. And as fast as the world changing now, there's no way. It's a continuous learning. That's why the AI is coming to help us.
That's right. Well, it depends on who builds it, what it's for. There's a lot of different theories around that. Yes, Terminator is possible. It could happen. But yes, it's going to be very helpful. That's a whole different conversation for a different time. But it's really any technology, any tool, if it was built to kill, then it is evil, right? Because it was built for evil purposes. If it was built to help people, then it will help people. Then it's great. The same tool that could be a tool to save your life could also be a weapon. It's all about who uses it or what purpose it was built for. And more people need to wrap their head around that. The thing itself is not inherently dangerous unless it is told to, built to, or used to create that danger.
Mm. Yeah, that's so true. And to wrap it up, I'm going to say keep learning, keep growing, and your uniqueness is your superpower, and don't be afraid to fail, because that's your biggest professor. You heard it here from Rob and Jenny's way. I do appreciate your time, your wisdom, and your experience, and we'll have all how to contact you if people want to work with you. I'll have your links.
And for sure, yeah. My LinkedIn is just the regular LinkedIn link, and then / the RevOps Hitman, and then you can email me at rob@revopshitmanconsulting.co.
As always, exciting conversation and very unique perspective on so many different subjects coming from Rob. It's always pleasure. I was so excited speaking with you today. Thank you for your time and your wisdom.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Bye now.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. So that is Rob. I was floored by how much experience he has gathered in so few years. My main takeaway from him is that we as entrepreneurs must be absolutely committed to the mission of service to our customers, as well as close attention to alignment with precise and correct staffing of our enterprise to achieve our goals. If this has meaning for you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It really helps the channel. I truly love to hear your feedback. Thank you so much for joining us. See you.